get better at this. I like this. I like what I'm doing. How can I get better at this? And it can kind of feel overwhelming, maybe, because you're just aware of all the parts that you could get better at. Because song making, there's so many different hats to wear, right? Your singing that you could be doing, the melodies that you're creating, the instrument that you're playing to make the music. How can I just get all this to sound a little better? Everything feels really quiet whenever I play it, right? There's so many good things that we have at our disposal to get better at. And so today, I want to help you figure out how to do that. For beginners, we're wrapping up this series. We've been talking about songwriting just from a beginner perspective, and this is the last episode in this series, and I want to give you the gift of knowing how to do better. Like, how can we make better songs? And so, before we jump in, I want to offer you kind of a companion guide to this episode, which is a finished songs guide. This is something you can use to start from scratch. If you have no songs whatsoever, it'll teach you how to start with something and finish with something, and it'll also help you if you have a song that you haven't finished, you're kind of like, man, I wish I could get past this certain part, plug it into this. And a part of wanting to get better, right? Maybe you're just not happy with the songs you're making. Maybe you're just not proud of what you're making yet. You're like, it could be better. You could probably be overthinking things, which is so easy to do. I'm guilty of that myself, and that's why I created this guide to help you go further faster, to help you start from nothing and get to somewhere with a finished song that you're proud of, you're happy with, and you're excited to share with some other people. So, jumping into today's teaching, I want to share how we're going to do this. And we're going to do this through something I'm calling a Betterment Blueprint. It's my goal to help you is to give you the best 3 steps that you could take to go forward in order to improve yourself as a song maker. Okay, and I want to make sure we get one thing straight really quick right off the bat. There's 2 paths to this, all right? Really, with anything you want to get better at in life, there's always 2 paths to take. And I just have to say this really quick so you know where I'm coming from, you know my heart, you know my intent. This is not a shortcut. I have no trick to give you. I have no magic wand to wave, all right? If you're looking for that, you're looking for a quick fix, this just isn't going to be the video, all right? I hope you know that by the end of this series, right? My heart is to just give you the truth, to just tell you what you need, to tell you the tried and true things that have worked not only for me for the past 12 years, but also that have worked for my mentors and other people that I have helped too, okay? So just right off the bat, I want to make sure you know that. But if you're down for the path less traveled, if you're up for the path of equipping you with a little bit of patience, with a little bit of tried and true, this is for you. Just because it's the tried and true path doesn't always mean it's slower, most of the time, but it doesn't always mean it has to be slow from the beginner level to that intermediate level of making songs and making your own music by understanding this one hack. So hang with me, we'll get to that. I know we're really breaking some ground right here, but just hang with me. We need to write more songs. It's no question the best way to improve. It's just hands down the best way to improve. You think about anything in life, right? I'm just trying to apply some basic logic here, right? If you want to get better at riding a bike, you got to go for some more rides, right? If you want to get better at shooting a basketball, you got to shoot a basketball. If you want to get better at a soccer ball, want to get better at anything, right? We just have to do more of it, right? That saying practice makes perfect, like there's some good reason to that, right? Practice is necessary. We can't just sit in our minds all day long, right? So you have to commit to making more songs. This first step is crucial. If you can't even get past this, I don't know that you're gonna get better at making songs. If you're like, well, I don't wanna make songs to get better at them. God, I don't know how to help you. If anyone knows how to do that, let me know. I would love to figure that out. That's just not how this thing works. You have to commit to getting better, to making more songs, to get better at making more songs, right? So we start there, no question the best way to improve. This also means, this is some encouragement, nothing is wasted. Right? So you're making more songs. Just because a song doesn't turn out the way that you want it to, doesn't mean that anything is wasted from your experience making it. I used to think this. I used to think that if I made a song and it didn't turn out exactly how I had it in my head, that I just messed up. That I just dropped the ball, I'm just not good enough. When I didn't realize that in the moment of making song after song, beat after beat, little music section after little music section, right? Like all of these things were little skills that I was practicing that just added up. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted when you're making a song, okay? Every single thing that you do is gonna add to something else because everything affects everything. Don't think any differently, all right? Because the only songs that you don't grow from are the songs that you don't make. Just facts, trying to leave it out right there, right? The only songs that you don't grow from are the songs that you don't make, okay? And this is kind of leading me to a resource that I want to share with you right here is to trust your taste until your technique catches up. Because if you're at the beginning level, right, like there's kind of this gap There's this gap between what you hear in your head and what you're able to create in the moment. There's a gap between those. The gap can close, as we're going to see here in a second. I'm going to share with you how, but I will encourage you that is completely normal. And the only way that you're going to continue to close that gap is by making more songs. And so there's this quick video that I want to share with you. It's by Ira Glass. It's called The Creative Process. It's just a quick minute clip. This is really going to help you. All right, so buckle up. Let's watch through this together.
Nobody tells people who are beginners, and I really wish somebody had told this to me, is that all of us who do creative work, like, you know, we get into it, and we get into it because we have good taste. But it's like there's a gap, that for the first couple years that you're making stuff, what you're making isn't so good, okay? It's not that great. It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, your taste is still killer. And your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you. You know what I mean? A lot of people never get past that phase. A lot of people at that point, they quit. And the thing I would just like say to you with all my heart is that most everybody I know who does interesting creative work, they went through a phase of years where they had really good taste, they could tell what they were making wasn't as good as they wanted it to be. They knew it felt short. It didn't have this special thing that we wanted it to have. And the thing I would say to you is everybody goes through that. And for you to go through it, if you're going through it right now, if you're just getting out of that phase, you got to know it's totally normal. And the most important possible thing you could do is do a lot of work.
Here we go.
Do a huge volume of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week or every month you know you're going to finish one story. Because it's only by actually going through a volume of work that you're actually going to catch up and close that gap. And the work you're making will be as good as your ambitions.
Whew, huge. Do you see what he's saying there? The big idea is this gap between you as a beginner, right? He's saying, I wish someone would have told me this, because it could just save you so much frustration, right? Like there's some healthy frustration, like you want to improve on something, but there's also just the point that you need to be aware of where you're starting and what you hear in your head and what you're actually creating, that there's just a gap between those, and that's okay. And the only way to close it, the good news is there's a solution, right? There's a solution. How do I close the gap? It's got to be like that forever? Nope, not really. Guess what you have to do? You need to make more songs. You get a little closer. Make more songs, get a little closer. Cha, 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 all the way until you are closing that gap. There's a solution. The solution is to create more, creating a huge volume of work. And I guarantee any songwriter, producer, artist that you look up to would affirm this. I almost want to, I really try not to speak in like absolutes, but I almost want to say, I promise you, every one of those artists has written more than 10 songs. Like I would almost guarantee that they have folders, lacy hard drives, right? They have hard drives full of folders of creations, right? And most of them probably won't see the light of day. And that's okay. I mean, it's probably a different topic for another day, but it's just proof of this concept of a large volume, committing to creating consistently. Like you said, give yourself a deadline every week, every month, whatever season of life you're in, try to create time, plan time so that consistently, right? You are creating, consistently we're practicing, and you're trying to make song after song, all right? So I hope that resonated with you. I hope that helps you. We're gonna move on now. Step number 2 is to consume less and create more. So we've already acknowledged that the best way to make more songs, or to improve your songs, is to make more songs, right? That's gonna come at the cost of some time, right? We need time to do that. That's a big thing. You may already not feel like you have enough time to make music now. You might feel like when you sit down to create something, like you don't even have enough time to get started, like let alone finish something, and that's okay, but we can borrow time from our consumption, okay? We can borrow time from our consumption. So we need more time to make songs. Let's get the time, let's hack it. We're gonna hack what we're consuming. So we're gonna create more than we're consuming. I know we're watching tutorials. I'm watching tutorials too. And when I first started learning how to create my own songs, just in my bedroom by myself, I came to YouTube. I was right here. I was looking on YouTube search. I was watching videos from different kinds of people. But the thing was, this was 12 years ago, all right? So YouTube was a different spot 12 years ago. There was just less videos. There was less information. And especially with a specific niche kind of thing about audio recording and like music production and songwriting, there really wasn't a lot of people talking about this. There was a handful of people. So before you know it, you know, you can be now today, like flash forward to today, before you know it, you could be watching 3, 4, 5, 7 different videos from all different kinds of teachers trying to share their best practices with you. And it leaves you paralyzed. If anybody ever felt this, like you start with a video in parallel compression, and then they say something, and then you see another one pop up. It's suggested. Thanks, YouTube. It's suggested. I click it. Then there's another one. Oh, and parallel compression like leads to drums. And now I'm looking at drums. And now after I'm looking at drums, I'm looking at like guitars. It's just like an endless loop for us as songwriters, which is crippling. It's paralyzing, and it's got to stop. It has got to stop because you're trying to execute on 17 different strategies. How could you not be frozen in time, right? You don't even know where to move. So we have to watch the tutorials. And in these tutorials, you may not even realize it. You could be picking up some bad habits. This is huge, especially if you're consuming a lot of information, especially at a beginner level. How do you even really know that this is a good thing for you? Maybe it's a good thing for them. Maybe it's a good thing for them on this specific kind of song they're creating that they're showing you, but is it really the best for you in your situation, in your music that you're making? You could be picking up some bad habits from people because we're just bombarded with ways that other people create music. And I gotta say, yeah, I know, I am contributing to this. I'm a voice out here trying to share my best tips, techniques, mindsets for creating songs by yourself. I am a part of this. I hope that, my hope is I'm not giving you any bad habits. I don't wanna give away any bad habits, but I wanna just throw out there, right? You could be picking up some bad habits from people because you're just consuming so much and you're lumping it all together in your brain, okay? We have to remember that it's in the reps, okay? So if we're gonna consume less and create more, like we were talking about, you have to make songs. It's in the reps of creating melody. It's in the amount of times you come up with a concept. It's the amount of times you work on your transition from your post-chorus to your verse two. Whatever it is, it's in the reps of doing things. Okay, that matters way more than consuming things, right? If I just sit down here and look up like a fitness workout, right? I didn't just go through the workout. I went through the workout, but you know where it was? It was in my head the whole time. I didn't actually move. I'm just sitting here. I'm not reaping the benefits of the knowledge, right? Until I go actually do something, right? Same thing with songwriting. Same thing with creating. It's same thing with all these creative things, artistry, like all this stuff requires learning and it requires acting on. It's this tension between good planning, right? And hard work. And there's a proverb that sums this up so perfectly in the Bible here. Proverbs 21:5, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Mic drop. There it is, right there. Right? Good planning and hard work. It's not just good planning and it's not just hard work, right? It's good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. Remember, we're not about shortcuts here. We're not about shortcuts. So don't forget about it's in the reps. All this consumption, my biggest tip is to limit the number of teachers. How many people are you learning from right now? I'm speaking to myself. I learn from so many different people, and it's good to learn from so many different people. It's good to have an abundance of counselors. Going back to Proverbs, there's another proverb, right? Wars are won with an abundance of counselors, not just like by yourself in your own head or with one person. I'm not saying that we need to limit the number of teachers because teachers are a bad thing. I'm saying for the season you're in, you could be learning from too many different people in different seasons where they're at. So limit the number of people you're consuming. And if that means me, if that means you need to let me go, that's completely fine, right? I want what's best for you. And if what's best for you is not consuming my content, but consuming someone else's, go do it. Please go do it, okay? So that's our step number 2. Make sure that we are creating more than we're consuming, all right? This leads us to the ultimate hack. This is what you've been waiting for. It is pillars over pieces. I'm gonna break this down. The ultimate hack for you speeding up this process of getting better songs is to focus on pillars over pieces. Hang with me. Here's how we do this. We want to focus on getting better at the pillars of songs, okay? I'm going to throw this out there. Just absorb it for a second. Not everything you hear in a song is responsible for its awesomeness. What? Not everything that you hear in a song is what makes it awesome. It just doesn't. The average listener does not care what kind of reverb you used. The average listener cannot understand the special strum that you did in the background in this transition between a verse and a chorus. The average listener does not hear all of the swooshing effects and stuff. The average listener doesn't hear all the doubles, the background vocals, maybe sometimes even the harmonies. Now, I will nerd out with you over this. Your fellow travelers and songwriters and songmakers will nerd out with you over this. They'll be like, oh, that was such a cool thing. Dude, you use that Valhalla reverb, use that preset, you adjusted the delay time. Totally, I'm with you. But remember, we're making music, right? For ourselves to be proud of, but chances are you want to be able to press play in front of somebody. You want to be able to share what you're creating with somebody else. And for a song to translate well to someone else, just an average listener, Not everything that you are getting tutorials on is worth its weight in making that song, oh, that's a good song. When someone listens to something, right? That first reaction. Okay, let me break this down just a little bit more. Think of it as a cake. Okay, so I'm not a baker. If there's any songwriting bakers out there, leave some comments, let me know about if I'm wrong about this. But in a cake, right, you've got the icing and stuff on top, and you've got this big base layer. That base layer is the breading, right? That stuff is the thickest, largest amount of a cake, right? Without that, the frosting doesn't really make a lot of sense. The candles don't really make a lot of sense, but you've got this base layer, right? Let's say it makes up like 80% of this cake right here is this breading, all right? When you take a bite, most of it is gonna be the breading. You've got this stuff up top, which is super fun, right? It's the icing, the candles, the fixings, right? It's the stuff that makes the cake look really cool, right? It's the stuff that makes it look awesome. We're like, oh, that's a birthday cake, right? It's like we're most responsible for that stuff. But if you take a bite of cake, chances are you're not eating a candle. Chances are you're not eating a fixing on top. You're gonna have some icing, but the biggest part is gonna be the breading. It's gonna be that base layer. And so when it comes to creating songs, the stuff that's on top, the stuff that is there to look good, the stuff that's like the 20% of the song is the right reverb, like we were talking about. It's setting up the best delay time. Quarter notes, half notes, eighth notes, 16th. Slap delay? Yeah, no, it's a candle, bro. It's icing, it's on top. It doesn't carry that much weight. Realistic VSTs, which is a virtual instrument. Like, what's the best virtual instrument I can have to like hook up to my MIDI keyboard to play on? Guilty as charged. I just did this fairly recently. What's the best banjo? I was making a country themed song for a company I'm signed to. I was a banjo. I needed a banjo. You know what I did? I Googled best banjo virtual instrument. All these things came up. They costed a lot of money. And you know what I decided to do? I said, screw all that. I'm not gonna pay for a banjo. I'm just gonna get the free one. I found a free banjo. It's called Yojo. Shout out Yojo, coming in clutch. It helped me so much. It's this free instrument. I mean, I think the sound of a banjo is subjective, right? Isn't the sound of any instrument subjective what you think it should sound like? I've been using this thing on all these country songs that are coming through that I'm making. Nobody said anything. Nobody's noticed. You know, the biggest thing someone has said is that a banjo in there? That's so cool. Yojo. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. The latest production effect. Those things do not carry weight compared to the pillars, the thick, the breading part of the cake, vocal performance. I mean, just think about it. Like, if you hear a song and it sounds like it's really well produced, like there's really cool delays, there's a perfect virtual instrument, right? There's an awesome reverb. The person starts singing and it's off key. It's not like on point. It's not hitting the vibe. I don't even sound like they're interested. Everything's flat. You gotta stop. I don't know, I can't keep listening, right? I can't keep listening if the vocal performance is off. That's most people. Most people, the average listener can tell if something is off, right? And vocal, especially with making songs, is like the biggest part of the song. Yeah, you can tell. If that thing's off, that thing's off, oh my goodness, right? Melody. I just did a whole video on this, right, in this series. Melody is the stickiest part of any song. It's the thing that someone walks away from your song going da 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 da, or if someone asks you, "Hey, what was that song?" It goes like da 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 da. We do melody. It sticks with us, right? If you're focusing more on the right reverb instead of your melody, that's whack. If you're focusing more on the best VST instead of your vocal performance, you're bugging. Like, this stuff just, they don't match up, right? It's like punching above your weight class. The concept of your song. No amount of production effects can save a song with a poor concept. Now, this is where we can get into a whole other discussion. I'm gonna try to save it, but I gotta say, just listen to top 40. Majority of the songs are proving this wrong. I will admit that. I will admit defeat in the concept versus production battle. But I'm assuming that you actually want to make something that means something. You want to make something that means something to you. You want to be proud of what you make. You want to be confident when you press play for your song for someone to listen to, right? You want to articulate what it is your artistry is trying to tell you to communicate to people. You actually want to have a good concept. I'm just guessing. If you don't, this might not be the channel for you. You probably already left by now. That's fine. If you're still with me, let's keep going. Mood and rhythm. right? Like when the chord hits, it just sets the tone. You're gonna be like, oh wow, you can just feel it before the words even start, before the concept is even given. Oh my goodness, you're just in it because of the way, the attention that was given to the mood, the chords, the rhythm. I call it the pigeon effect, right? Can you have people going like this to your song? It's a good sign. It's a good sign if you have some kind of rhythm where people can, they're like moving, or they're just moving anything, right? It doesn't have to be their head, or they're like stomping their foot, tapping their foot, anything, movement, right? These are the things that make up the bulk of the song. So what do we do with this? To fast track our progress, we focus on practicing the pillars more than the pieces. And maybe it's just for a while, right? It doesn't have to be forever, but just as maybe the next step, right? This is how you're gonna get quicker into that intermediate section of creating music, is focusing on the things that really carry the most weight, the elements of a song that are most responsible for its, oh wow, that sounds really cool. Your vocal performance, your mood, your concept, your melody, right? Focusing on those things over the frosting, right? And the candles, right? If you just ate frosting and candles, you'd get sick. So go without the right reverb, go without the best delay time, go without the best VSTs, the best production effects. Let them be. They'll always be there. They will always be there for you. And I'm not saying that these things don't matter. It's part of the cake. We just saw, right? But like, it just doesn't carry the most weight. It doesn't make up most of the cake. It doesn't make up most of your song. If you can nail those pillars right, you will get people and yourself to be proud of your songs, because those things register, those things resonate. Those are things that the listener and you can feel, right? You can feel if melody's taken away. You can feel if the vocal performance is really good. You can't feel the reverb setting. You can't feel the perfect VST. You just can't, okay? So in all of this, this is your Betterment Blueprint. What are we doing? We've decided the best way to get better at making songs is to make more songs, right? But to make more songs, we're gonna need time. So we're gonna borrow time from our consumption. We're gonna start creating more, consuming less, right? And now that we're creating, right? Now that we're creating, we're gonna focus on practicing the pillars. We're gonna focus on creating things and not getting caught up and sidetracked in parallel compression, all these fancy effects. We're gonna really focus on the things that matter and the things that are responsible for a song being at its most awesome, okay? So all of these things you can do. If you're looking for that companion guide to practice this, check out my guide. I created it as almost like your personal trainer for making songs. It's a 5-step process that you just go through over and over again, focusing on the pillars, eliminating the pieces that don't really matter as much right now in this phase you're in.